Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to your creative journey. My name is Kevin Gregg.
I'm Paul Carganilla.
Welcome to the show that is designed to help you get your creative work done. Whether you're an actor, writer, singer, dancer, what else could they be, Paul?
So many of the things we've talked about before, like color namer.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Is that me? Creative journey.
Somebody
My name is
who's
Kevin
listening
Gregg.
to himself. Again.
Is that you? Oh, Paul.
Well, I can't mute it until the stream starts, so that's why
It's
that
weird.
happens.
Listen, I'm doing the same thing.
Now
right?
you got it. Look at that.
See, this happens to me. Hold on a second. I've literally got to have Steve Erdeman. I am so sorry that this is happening. What else could they be? We've heard this.
Like, oh, come on, guys. Get it together.
All right, we're back. Sorry, Steve. He fully edited that out now.
Yeah. So you could be so many things we talked about before, like a color namer, a smell tester, a professional sleeper, train pusher, a professional mourner, dog food taster, or a scuba diving pizza delivery man.
Did you say scuba diving pizza delivery man? Was that on your list or did you make it up?
Would you believe, Kevin, there's an underwater hotel in Florida where you have to scuba dive to get there, and they actually have pizza guys who are trained to get the pizza in there dry.
That is so rad. There's got to be like video of that somewhere. Yes,
probably in the YouTubes.
I've got to see that. That'd be amazing. You got to have it airtight. Anyway, no matter what you do, even if you deliver pizza underwater, this is the show for you. We're so glad to have you here. We have fantastic guests that visit us today. We've actually got a special guest that's with us. Her name is Elizabeth Richardson. I want to tell you a little bit about her. She is a stage manager. She's also an organizer and creator originating from Barrie, Ontario, Canada. She specializes in stage management, production management. She loves helping create magic on stage and off, bringing worlds to life for everyone involved in the production. She's had the experience of impacting performing artists at a young age. She hopes to inspire others through her work and hopefully one day educate the next generation of artists. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth Richardson.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, she's listen. Elizabeth is a stage manager by trade. We were just joking before we went live. She was like kind of going, can I just call the cues on this, right? But,
that would be preferable. Yeah.
But you know what? You're going to be fine in this. Elizabeth and I have actually been working most of the last year along with Jackie, who was with us a few weeks ago on the show. Elizabeth also works with me with Knowledge Hook. She's been working as we've been producing some of these awesome experiences for this math company of all things. We've had like this mishmash of creatives that have kind of met each other like in a different environment. So how are you, Elizabeth?
I'm wonderful. I am getting a little sleepy. We're approaching, it's 11 o'clock where I am. So it's past bedtime, but I'm here. I'm awake. I am ready.
You are. It's Toronto, man. Toronto. Yeah. Look at that. Paul's just like shocked, like going, how did we wrangle this?
Is she in Hogwarts or is she in Florida underwater?
Yeah, sorry. You gave me away.
We always ask this of everybody that comes on the show. Elizabeth, what was the best thing that happened to you this last week?
I am currently purchasing a car, so that's exciting.
Okay, let's talk turkey, man. Paul just got a car just a couple of months ago, like a big deal. Let's talk. What are you looking at?
My car?
Your car.
It's an Audi.
It's an Audi. Wow.
Yeah.
Have you owned an Audi before?
No, I haven't. This is going to be the first car for me.
Now, wait a minute. Hold on. Let's back this up.
Yeah.
Now you're living in Toronto. So what do you mean this is the first car for you? Have you never purchased, you know how to drive, correct?
Oh yeah, I have my full license. But in a city this big, you don't need a car normally. I mean, I've gotten on my whole life without having one. So, it's doable.
That is crazy. Paul, have you ever been to Toronto? I've never been to Toronto.
I haven't been to Canada at all, but that's great that you just used, the transit system. It'd be great if we had a nice transit system.
Oh,
yeah.
It is the bane, man. I mean, we were talking about it beforehand. because Elizabeth's hopefully planning on doing a trip to San Francisco soon. But like San Francisco is amazing. Like it's got its dialed in transit stuff, but Toronto has its stuff, has its transit system fully dialed in. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, more or less. There are cities in Canada that have it better. I think Montreal's transit system is a lot better, but our transit systems, they don't match up to Europe, but I mean, they're good enough. You can get from like the suburbs like hours away into the main city on a train. So, and the train runs like very frequently. So it actually is a pretty good system for the whole province that we're in. It's pretty nice. I mean, it's got flaws, but for, my purposes, it's been great.
We've just never gotten that dialed in Los Angeles. I mean, it's a thing that
Yeah.
honestly, to give you guys a perspective, it's like, I remember when I was going to high school, they were talking about like, we're building the red line. It was like, it's coming, it's going to change LA. And honestly, it took them another 15 years. Like it was crazy till they got it up. I mean,
Mhm.
the context for me is in the movie Speed, when Keanu Reeves is under and they're building the whole metro thing. Like that was a time that all of that stuff was even fictionalized in Speed, that they hadn't even gotten the tunnel system that well. It just took forever to get the stuff, and they still don't have it dialed in.
Well,
Yeah, the buses don't come very often. I was just there, and I saw maybe like 5 buses the whole 2 weeks I was there. So
We just can't do it, right, Paul? I mean,
I was watching it. We took a hard right turn in this episode already.
that's all right.
I was watching an old show called Cities of the Underworld when it was like in its first season. It was
Okay.
hosted by Don Wildman, and he'd go to like cities that have an underworld, and he explored the Los Angeles underground train like tunnels that were begun in like the 1950s and then completely abandoned when the car like industry blew up.
Yeah. Listen, my dad remembers the entire, like in the West Hollywood area. I actually just saw Elizabeth a few weeks ago. She was down. So right in the area that you were in, Elizabeth, in West Hollywood visiting, they used to have like trolley systems. Like my dad remembers having like the trolley tracks, and like what Paul's talking about, when that auto industry blew up down here, they ripped up the tracks. They ripped up the tracks in LA. It's nuts.
we still have those trolleys in Toronto. They're called streetcars now, but they work great.
A streetcar named Toronto. Look at you.
Yeah, man. They're my preferred method of transportation, actually. They're nicer than the subway system, in my opinion.
Well, now here's the thing. Are you pulling the trigger on the car? Have you decided what make you're going to get and all that stuff?
Yeah, we have. Yeah. I'm a little scared about it, but yeah, we have.
Why?
Oh, sorry.
Why are you scared?
It's just a big responsibility. I don't know anything about cars. Like I'm the wrong, I shouldn't have brought it up because I'm the wrong person to ask. I mean, I'm going to have to learn about changing a tire, like when to go for the oil change. Like, I don't know anything. So
Paul, what would your advice be? What would your advice be to Elizabeth?
Yeah, I got a secret for you. A whole lot of people don't know anything about cars. I don't know how to change my oil or change a tire. We have a service that comes out and does that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have AAA.
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
then you're fine.
Nothing to be nervous about. Nothing.
Yeah.
You guys got Costco up there?
Yeah.
You're good.
I get my samples all the time.
This entire episode could turn into, hey, what do you also have in Canada?
I can take the quiz. Do it. I'm ready.
I know you can. Paul throw a couple of them at you. I'm sure he will. Elizabeth, so here's the thing. You're a stage manager. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, so you grew up in Ontario, Canada. How the heck did you get involved in a career in the arts, man? What took you this way?
Yeah. In high school, like most people do, I dabbled in drama class, and I was just like doing the acting and the games and all that good stuff. And towards the end of high school, I kind of discovered that there are people running the backstage, and I was like, oh, that's neat. And so that's when it shifted my focus, and my mom took me to see a show, and in the back of the program for our local community theater group, they were actually looking for an assistant stage manager. My mom was like, you should try that. You love theater, like go give it a go. And I was like, okay, why not?
How old were you at the time?
Oh, like 17, 18,
Sure.
like end of high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did it. So they gave me the position. I don't know why. I have no credential at the time, no credentials.
Right.
And yeah, that was like my first kind of dabble into the backstage part of theater. Before that, I had been on stage a whole bunch in high school and plays and that. And I really loved that performative aspect because prior to that, I was a dancer. Like since I was 6, I was a tap dancer predominantly. So I'm used to being on stage.
Sure.
But yeah, it kind of shifted my focus and I went to university and just kind of decided to explore all facets of theater because the backstage, the design and the acting, like I didn't want to give one up. So I kind of explored that, joined some theater clubs. And eventually it led me on to go to actual theater school, like once I got my degree from university.
Wow.
And so I applied and I went to theater school, and that was another 3 years on top of the 5 I did prior to that. Yeah,
Whoa.
I've been in school for
So
ages.
wow. So here's my question on this, because this is
Yeah.
interesting. When you went to the original schooling, right?
Mhm.
And you said it was 5 years for it. Was that just for like your bachelor's of
Yeah.
arts? Is that what it
Yeah.
was? So that was and at the time were you specifically focused on a theater major at the time or no?
No, I was focused on a French major. I went for
Good.
French literature. Yeah, and I did a theater minor.
Yeah.
So it's because, and this is a good thing for people. I was told that I would never have a career in theater, and that's why I never majored in theater. I was told it wasn't viable, it wasn't an option. Artists are poor and they're broke and they don't make it in life. And
And who were you hearing that from specifically? Was
ooh, I
it
shouldn't
family members?
say.
No way.
Yeah,
Okay,
I shouldn't
you
say.
can be vague. I mean, I've talked about
Uh,
it before on the show. Like, listen,
yeah.
again, I've talked about it before. I've got Irish immigrant parents, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like the idea of me going into like, hey, I'm going into a career in the arts. It's just like, all right, I might as well had like cheese whiz coming out of my ears and mouth.
Yeah.
I don't know why I chose that image. That's just the image I chose. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Uh, but
I love
yeah, it was bizarre. Now, Paul had a
Mhm.
completely different experience where he had like parents that were just rock stars, that were just like,
Mhm.
yeah, go for it, you know?
My parents were very, very supportive. The biggest person in my ear that said don't pursue this was actually one of my theater teachers in
Wow.
in community college and junior college. She was just like, uh you should minor in psychology. You should like figure out, have some other thing you want to do, because like it's not what you think it is. And
Yeah.
Right.
crazy.
Yeah. And that's kind of the similar sentiments that I was told is like, it's really hard to get into. When you get into it, you're not going to get paid any money. Like, what's the point in trying? Like, I was told a whole whack of things. But at the end of the day, it was really the only thing that truly made me happy. And I decided I have to go for it. I can't let that dream die. So I did
Was
my
there
French degree, but I
was
did
there a
theater.
specific thing? Could you remember like that specific moment that happened for you of saying, I'm going for this? I mean, or was it just a series of things?
I think it was like part way through university, which is college in the US. Part way through, I don't know if it was third or fourth year of the 5 that I did, I kind of was like, you know what? I don't see a future with my French degree, which, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are tons of futures I could have had if I wanted it, but I didn't see one for myself where I was going to be happy.
Mhm.
And the thing that was keeping me going was my theater club that I joined, and like the theater credits that I was doing to fulfill my minor. That's what was bringing me joy every day. And yeah, some way through third or fourth year, I was like, I just need to keep going and I need to get a better education in this. And that's when I decided to like put all my energy in towards applying to theater school and getting like the right credentials to apply to theater school to then like go and live that dream, or to take that dream to the next level, I guess.
And then at that point, if you're in the theater, and what was the theater school that you went to?
I went to a school in Canada called the National Theatre School of Canada. It's based in Montreal.
Huge, right? It's huge. It's like
It's a very big school. Yeah.
it's one of the big ones up in Canada.
Yeah.
It's like if you're getting to that, I don't know. I mean, it's on par with like Juilliard or stuff like that, or what would you say?
It's similar. I don't know if anything compares to Juilliard.
Sure.
I also don't know anyone who's been to Juilliard to like talk to. I don't think they have a tech program at Juilliard. They're mostly like performers, I think.
Sure.
Is that wrong?
I don't know. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
If somebody knows in the comments, please feel free. And by the
Yeah,
way,
let me know.
hi to all of our folks that are on the comments. Meryl, good to see you. Dari, glad that you're here. Thank you. Yeah. If you know, somebody do internet research, get back to us.
Never heard
Yeah,
of
I would
the
love to
National
know.
Theater School, but I would imagine that the National Theater School would be the school you want to go to study theater.
Yeah, it's one of them. There's a few across Canada. They all like vary in different degrees of intensity and in the subject matter that they offer. But the school I went to offers a stream for acting, directing, playwriting, production, and set and costume design. So like the 5 major categories.
And it was a 3-year program. And I'm assuming it's some version of a master's program. Yeah. I mean, that's what
Feels
it is.
like it. But it doesn't grant me any because of the province of Quebec's education system, which is like a whole little asterisk in the Canadian geography. Because of the way their education system works, it doesn't actually grant me anything bigger than a certificate. But
okay.
it doesn't matter at the end of
But
the day.
it's still it's literally the credential. Like, yeah, I went here. Like I went through all these programs. And so when you were going in there, did you know that you were going to specifically go into the tech program?
Yes. So you apply to the specific programs that you're interested in. So I applied to the production design and technical arts program, which is what it's called now. At the time, it was only called the production program, but partway through my degree, they changed the name. So I am a graduate of the production design and technical arts stream at the National Theatre School of Canada. And that was 3 years. And within that, you can specialize within the different production streams, or you can keep it general, which is also what I tried to do while I was there. So I did like as many things as I could. And you're also kind of forced to do a lot of different things to make you a well-rounded production person.
Time that shop, man. Spend time in that shop.
Yeah. I built sets. I know how to weld. Like it's
That's
a whole
awesome.
thing. Yeah.
It's huge. They used to do that in our theater program too. But Paul, did you ever do any production? Do you ever do like building sets and all that stuff in any of your schools?
Yeah, I didn't major in theater, but yes, we did have to learn. I think we called it shop. It was building sets.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, it's like that. It's like talk about just like, hold on for a second. It's not just about you being on stage. It's like, can you handle this bandsaw or this, get in there and use the drills. You're going to help us tear down. I remember you get assignments. You'd have to finish a certain amount of tech credits every semester. Like you'd have to be on the breakdown crews and all that stuff. It's I think it's a good experience for you. So Elizabeth, what were the things that when you were in the program, what will you say were some of the highlights for you, or maybe some of the moments where you go, this is hard?
Yeah, there are so many of both. So I'll have to pick some like standout ones.
Sure.
I think highlights. So when you go into the school, they only accept 8 students in each program. Well, that's 8 students in my program. They've bumped up some of the numbers to 10 and 12 in other programs. In playwriting, they only accept 2 students a year. Directing is only 2 students a year. So in my class, we were 8. So 8 of us got in. A highlight for me are those other 7 people that I spent 3 years with. And I think it's really important that people know that the school is 6 days a week and sometimes 12 hours a day, because you are putting on shows as though you're in a real world environment, which is like sometimes you're there for a 10 out of 12. If anyone is listening from Equity, you're in a 10 out of 12 situation and you're there all day and you really get to know the people you're with. And those other 7 people that I spent all my time with, they were a huge highlight for me personally, because without them, I don't know what I would do.
I have an image of like, we've got the Navy SEALs when you go through Navy SEALs Bud School, and I feel like they've got like a bell where if you have to ring out. I mean, did you see other people that maybe not in your group, but in other groups that just went, I'm out of here. Like I'm done. I can't do this.
Oh yeah, people dropped out of school while we were there. We had quite a few people leave over the 3 years that we were there from like one person left from my class, but from the other 5 streams. Like some people dropped out of those as well in my year, the year above, below, like all the time. It's not constant, but it's a pretty common occurrence, which is something the school, I think, was working actively to fight, to make sure that the people who are considering leaving, like they help them to not leave, like they, for whatever reason. And sometimes that can't be helped. Like sometimes it's totally personal and you want to leave, and that's fine. But the school I know has been putting things in place to help prevent that, because there's only so many of you. They only choose 8 in my program, you know?
Well, yeah, especially when you go through a program like that, like you're hoping like this is the best, this is the best, and they're going to be with us, and you want to try and retain them as best you can. And you hope that you've gone through that process of like going, oh, okay, we think that we found the people that we want to have come through this. So, you know, things do happen. So, all right, what were the lowlights, man?
Oh goodness. I'd say the long days are definitely the low lights. You feel like really burnt out, and you get to some really like crazy little places, because not only are you producing shows, like theater shows, like you are holding positions of technical director, like head of department, like head of lighting, your crew, like you literally fulfill like everything, not all at once, but in the different years you fulfill all the roles. And the hours are very long and very hard. And on top of doing those shows, you're also going to class during the day, and you're doing homework and projects. And those projects are also theater. So you're kind of doing like a lot of different shows all at once. And sometimes it's not like a full show. If you have a lighting project for a lighting intensive, you're only focusing on the design of a concept. For example, we had to light a poem, but you're still doing like all these different things.
That's wild. Lighting a poem. Lighting a poem.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like somebody had a poem that was up on the wall and you were lighting it or something, or
no, like the concept is you're given the poem, you read the poem, what does the poem evoke like visually for you, and then you design that on stage, and you go through the process of plotting the lights and figuring out the photometrics of what lights will hit where on the stage that you want to light it, and what like set pieces do you want to light for your lighting concept to like show off XYZ. It's a whole thing. So I'd say the hours. That's a low light.
Listen, first of all, we got you to say Zed as a Canadian, so that's great.
Hey.
But here's hey, Christina, glad to have you here. And you know what? I'm wondering if you've got a friend of yours that's here, Elizabeth. Amy Hernal Sully. I don't know. I'm just saying there might be a friend of yours that's here. I don't know.
I don't know if I know them.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll just say hi to them anyway.
Hi, Amy.
I'm going to ask a very generalized question. You may not have an answer for it. Paul may not have an answer for it. And I'm going to jump off topic here from your schooling. It's always, and maybe this is a broad generalization on my side. I feel like technical people get the short end of the stick consistently. Like I feel like there are incredible asks that are made, that are requested from them. Sometimes it's about moving heaven and earth. I will tell you particularly where I see this in the film industry a lot, where I see people that are just like doing these like impossible hours where you just go, my gosh, these guys are churning 16, 18-hour days, 6-hour turnarounds, like it's nuts, Yeah. And just as you were talking about that, I mean, I'm wondering, is it possible? And again, this is a theoretical question, and maybe what your thoughts are on it, Paul, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too. But this idea of how has it gotten to this point? How has it gotten to this point where people get stretched so thin and ask the impossible? This also happens with CGI artists, like a lot, computer graphic artists that are asked to just move heaven and earth. How it's gotten to this point. And do you see a point where that can get, and this can happen for many people in different aspects of the arts, but how do we get to a more balanced work-life situation where people are like going, okay, great. I'm willing to do this. Like, I'd be more than happy to do this 50 hours a week, great. Let's figure that out. Let's just not do the 70, 80 hours a week. And let me have my time with, let me develop relationships or things with my community. I don't know. Thoughts on that from either of you two?
I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay, well then you might as well
It's like a
start
hot
with.
topic for me.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I think the reason we've gotten there is because of job scarcity. And I feel like people feel when you're in a non-unionized environment, I think maybe in an IATSE environment, it might be a little bit different, but in a non-unionized environment, depending on your position, if you're not willing to work those hours, they're just not going to hire you. And people don't want to not get hired. I think that goes a long way also with the folks in acting, they don't want to
Sure.
say no to something because they don't want to miss out on another gig down the line. So I feel like that's a big thing in our industry. And a lot of people, like, I feel like there's a shift happening. People want to talk about it. I know in the States, there's that big no more 10 out of 12s movement that's happening. I haven't been following it closely, but I know that it's there. And I think that's where it stems from, is a lot of people, they don't want to say no. But I also know for Canada, I can't speak to the US because I don't know. I think there's also budgetary restraints in that theaters only have so much money here and the funding structure is different. And so that means that you only have the theater rented for X amount of time. And so if you were to so I think what happens is we stretch those hours as much as we can. So if you have a theater rented for 2 weeks, you want to fill that 2 weeks 12-hour days, like during tech, as much as you can, get the whole company in there, as opposed to paying the extra third week to only do 8-hour days and to stretch it out over the third weeks. Because at the end of the day, the bottom line is a little bit different if you add that week.
Yeah.
So, and then you have to pay, well, I don't know so much about the paying the extra time versus paying the overtime hours.
Right.
But I think that's kind of where it stems from, at least from where I am sitting at current.
Yeah. It's a hard thing, right? I think it's a
Mhm.
hard thing when people are, I think you bring up a great point of people are afraid of saying no or putting the hard line for stuff
Mhm.
because they are afraid that they will lose the opportunity or get ostracized from
Mhm.
future opportunities, right? Oh, that
Yeah.
person doesn't want to.
I'll just reiterate. I think she hit it right up, hit the ball out of the park with the first swing with the job scarcity thing. I think in any profession that is like cutthroat and there's a lot of competition for jobs, employers can ask people to do crazy stuff and they'll do it.
Mhm.
The only balance I could see would be if if more theaters opened up, if more films were
Mhm.
being made and more opportunities were out there, then the people who are doing the grunt work could say, okay, all right, let's find a balance here and be able to spend some time with our families and relax so we can bring our passion and renewed vigor to the project.
Yes,
Yeah.
because you have this whole other thing of people being burned out. I mean, we had a thing that happened down here in Southern California in the movie industry several years back, but these turnover times were too fast. And you'd have guys that are falling asleep at the wheel and some guy crashed and got killed, because he's
Mhm.
basically doing a 4 or 5 hour, not getting enough sleep to come back. And it's like, well, I got to make the money. I got to do this stuff. And now the other side of this too, like when you're talking about the no more 10 out of 12s or whatever that is. Now, the other side of that is like making sure that people that are getting these opportunities and stepping into these opportunities are working. You know what I mean? Like this
Mhm.
isn't just about like landing in a union job and then kind of going, all right, well, I just twiddle my thumbs. It's like, no, man, like you work, you give your all. Like that's just sort of a work ethic for any job, whatever you'd be in. It's like,
Mhm.
give it your full attention. Don't try and coast through stuff. Um, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's just something that comes in my mind. And especially when I see people on the tech side of things, I see it a lot. You see people
Yeah.
that are working their tails off. And again, exhaustion, long-term
Mhm.
health issues, stuff like that that comes up because I don't want to be cliche with saying balanced life because that's a thing that a lot of people say.
Yeah.
But boy, it is so important. It is important that you're getting that regular rest, that you're able to check in with your spouse or your partner or your kids, or to connect with your community, or to have moments to refresh, because
Mhm.
that makes you full, right?
Mhm.
It's like, what was that? I just saw a study the other day. I'm sure that you guys have heard this, but if you only get 4 hours of sleep a night, the next day it's the equivalent of you drinking a 6-pack of beer. That's how focused
Wow.
you're going to be. Like that's
Great.
basically how your
Yeah.
mind works. And when you think about people that are in the industry, Paul experienced this with his independent film. I mean, practically no sleep working on that. We've all gone through seasons like that where
Mhm.
we're just like, got to get it done, got to get it done. And you finally get to a point where you're not getting a return. You're just like, everybody's just, you can only drink so much coffee or eat so many sweets to keep yourself awake. And the body
Yeah.
just goes, we're done. Right
Yeah,
here.
100%.
Here's a terrible flu to shut down your body.
Yeah,
If you're not going to do it, how many times have you had that? Right. We've all experienced that. We've
I have. Yeah.
busted our hump, got through a show, and
Yeah.
then you get through it. And then you're like ill for like a week and a half afterwards, man.
I teched a show while ill. That was a joy. It was a true treat.
You did it.
Yeah, I did.
What the stats are like, because like I'm pretty sure that whiskey got me through the 21-hour days. So I wonder what like the next day was with the whiskey and the 3 hours of sleep.
When you're drinking all this whiskey, it's like you've only had 4 hours of sleep. What's wrong with you, bro? Like it. That's just how you're able to flip it to the cops when they pull you over. So Elizabeth, let's talk about the transition that happened when you got out of school and your foray into becoming a professional and making money doing this, right?
Yeah.
Where you get to look back at those people in the past and go, ha ha, told you I could do it.
Yeah. I mean, that transition was pretty tough. I got out of school and I wasn't actually completely settled on being a stage manager at the time when I got out of school. I was still interested in design, which I had picked up in theater school. Like I discovered I really liked being a designer. So I was focused on trying to do both, which at the time seemed like it was a great idea. And I don't regret doing it, but I think over time I've discovered that my true passion lies in paperwork and organization and solving problems. So not that designing isn't solving problems, but yeah, so I picked one. And I think that the transition was pretty hard coming out of theater school. It's hard to find work. Like it's really hard as someone who's new to like network and meet people and just kind of like get your roots down. I found that everyone kept saying, well, where do you want to be? Like, what city do you want to be in? And I'm like, well, I'm open to go anywhere. Like, I just want to have the opportunity. I want to, learn more. And what I'm working on right now and was working on at the time is getting my equity credits to join equity. I know in American Actors Equity, you do it based on hours, but in Canada, you do it based on shows. Mm-hmm. So every show is a credit. And I think in the American one, you need 50 hours. So I was focused on getting the amount of credits that I needed, so the amount of shows I needed to join the union. And it's hard. It was really hard before the pandemic happened to get your feet on the ground and to kind of get your foot in the door. A lot of it's based on who you know. And if someone already knows you and has worked with you, then they'll offer you the job and the posting won't even go up because they already know kind of who they want to work with.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of the industry being really small and people not, I don't want to say not wanting to take a chance on a new person, but it's way easier to trust someone you know than it is to take a chance on some new person that has no background. So yes. I feel for everyone who's starting out. It's a tough to get your toe in. And then, but once you do and you start gaining momentum, it gets a little bit easier. And I think I feel like it's been slowly getting easier. And the people
what was the tipping point? Who was the person that took the chance on you?
I think one of my colleagues from school got a job as a production manager at a large theater in Canada. And she gave me a position as an apprentice on one of the shows. Right. And that was like my first big thing that I got on my resume. And I was like, this is great. This is
That's,
amazing.
I
I
mean,
am
that's
forever indebted to her.
it's
So
exactly after,
yeah.
spending 3 years in school, right? And getting
Hmm.
to know each other. I'm serious.
Hmm.
It's that idea of like, I've spent time with this person. I know
Hmm.
who they are, because it really is. It's a relationship. It's a relationship building thing. I think you
It
bring up
is.
an
Yeah.
excellent point. When I'm approaching something as a producer, I'm the same way. I want to know, I'm either going to hire somebody that I've worked with before, that I know their work ethic, or I'm after that, once I go through that level and I haven't found anybody that's available, then I'm starting to take recommendations. I'm
Yeah.
going to take recommendations from the people that have known people, and then it goes down the line from that. Because
Yeah.
if people are vouching for other people, all right, great, I'm in. I will trust you,
Yeah,
So
for sure.
good on you, man.
Yeah, so it was really nice that she gave me that opportunity, and then from there I've done so much cold calling and so much legwork to just, here's my CV and my resume, and hope that other people wanted to take a chance based on my credits on my resume, and so far it's been working out. So that's good.
That's
So
pretty
far.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've
Yeah.
also had this experience recently. We talked about with Jackie Bree, that was on the show a couple of weeks ago. But Elizabeth and I have been working with this knowledge hub company. And again, I'm going to stress this again. Actually, Elizabeth and I did a podcast for for the company several weeks back. But we talked about this idea of like that there are other companies and businesses and stuff like that they're kind of starving for people from the arts. And it's sort of like it's like a moment where you go, wait a minute, you're actually going to pay me to do what I do? And like, you know,
Yeah.
what was your experience like with that, Elizabeth?
I think so far it's been really positive. I think the best part about it is that they don't have any expectation. Like if we're talking strictly my non-theatrical job that I currently have, I'm a project manager, stage manager, production manager, whatever label you want to apply to it. I basically am using my theatrical skill set and just in a different context. And yeah, the best part is that they had no expectations of me. They wanted me to help them define the job and define what made sense in what they were looking to create. And I think that freedom made it that much more rewarding, because it left the door completely wide open for me to say, these are my skills. This is what I can do for you. Let's like mold this and build this. And it
Yeah.
is so applicable to what I already know,
Yeah.
because we are putting on these live but online events, and I found that a lot of my organizational strengths just completely like translated over, and it was so easy to kind of fall into that rhythm, and just help them develop the processes to create these events from scratch, because they hadn't done it before. And it was just really rewarding, and I also got to exercise some of those design skills that I had said that I left behind. And now I've brought them forward in terms
Yes, you
of the
have.
designing of all the different assets, because we do little animated videos and we have graphic assets, and we're designing the slideshows that are used in the presentations. And having that design oversight has been really rewarding for me, because I thought I had to give up the design part of my career and my passion. And so I've found it again, and it's been great.
That's awesome. You're
Mhm.
talking to a guy down here, Paul, that has literally had to do this over the last several years. Speak to your experience with that, Paul.
Well, as I came through school wanting to be an actor, so I took all the theater classes and had all the years and years of performing experience for Disney. And while I was working for Disney, I developed skills with, directing, filmmaking, editing, production, and just like becoming a multifaceted tool in the belt, I guess, for just creating content. And then
Mhm.
it took a hard right in my career, and I joined a local law enforcement agency as a dispatcher.
Mm.
And they saw my skills. I volunteered my skills to help the department in putting out different social media stuff and some graphic design, some film editing. And like a year later, I ended up being in the command staff as the uh, public information officer, and now I manage the police department's public image. And it's crazy. Like I never would have dreamed like this would be what I was doing, but I'm like making making more than I ever dreamed I would, just being on social media pretty much all the
Yeah.
or just
Right.
using all these skills. And in my, in my free time, I get to still create and do what my passion, like where my true passion lies, to feed that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's crazy how, you just use these skills from art and from theater and just can apply them to so many aspects of life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
transferable.
It's a thing that I've talked about before. I'm such a huge advocate of the arts and education because it's one of the first things that usually gets cut, right? Because it is seen as non-essential, not
Mhm.
necessary. And believe me, that's not the fault. I do think it's absolutely mandatory that kids know their reading and their mathematics and all that is absolutely essential. We need that. And I understand sports programs as well, right? But there is something with arts education that is so vital because it triggers imaginative thought, imaginative play, and thinking outside the box, right? And we can't just create entire generations of students that are out there that are like cookie cutter, or just like, what do you need me to put out, what do you need me to say? It's like, no, you got to use your imagination, you got to improv, you got to figure this stuff out, and you got to problem solve. I mean, you discover those things through I get it, through essay writing and reporting and mathematics, absolutely. But I sometimes feel like really being in the arts helps to kind of also use those real skill things. I'm a huge proponent of people need to take improv classes. Even if you have no plan, if you have no plan on being an improv artist, that's okay. Get into an improv class once in your life. Once in your life. I don't care what it is you do. I don't even care if you don't want to do a job in the arts, but get into an improv class to realize, like, oh, I've got to think on my feet and I don't have the answer, and it's just going to come, and we've just got to figure this out as we're doing it. I think that that's such a vital skill to do. So yeah, but what both of you, both Elizabeth and Paul, are talking about this idea of, yeah, all this stuff that we've been doing, and it actually ports over into other lines of businesses, that there are other people that need it. Like,
Mhm.
literally, there are businesses that are out there that go, we don't know what to do. we need we need somebody thinking outside the box to come in here and help us. And just being able to claim that and say, yeah, I can actually do. There's actually times when I'm in situations that I've had with different clients, and I go, don't you know how to do? And you go, oh yeah, you don't know how to do this, right? Great.
Mhm.
Let me help you.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, maybe this is something else of the two you can talk to. I'm learning to claim that and to speak that out loud and to bring that into everything that I do. Because there was a tendency in some of the art circles that I was in, or sometimes with some of the organizations that I worked with, where you kind of got this feeling of like, shut up and be glad that you've got a job, right?
Mhm.
It's like, you're not, you know, you're not paid to stand there and look pretty, right? I mean, you get a
Mhm.
lot of that. You get a lot of that sort of like downward speaking, that you don't realize the value of what you actually bring, until I've had this experience over the last few years where I've gotten outside of some of those circles and go, oh, this is absolutely vital and absolutely necessary. And I'm so glad that I get to flex this muscle, you know? So, uh, so what would you say to this, Elizabeth? Somebody that's thinking about going into this, somebody is sort of in your shoes. What would you tell yourself several years ago, when you're going back, and think of somebody else that would have been around that age or getting into it? What would be the advice that you would give that person?
Someone getting into theater?
Sure.
Okay. Um, I think that, as cliche as maybe this might be, I think that I would, speaking to my younger self, first off, it's going to be okay. That's the first thing. That's the first thing. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, to anyone who's like criticizing you or critiquing you or putting you down for liking what you want, like what you are passionate about, like put that to the side. It's going to be okay. Follow what you're passionate about. Understand that the industry is not perfect and it is evolving, especially right now. But there is so much opportunity in that of evolution that's happening for your voice. And I would say make sure to take up space, like take up the space that you deserve. I don't think I took up enough space in my training at times. And I didn't use my voice when I should have because of feeling just like that I should just be grateful for the opportunity to even be there.
Was it being scared or afraid of being wrong or afraid of stepping on anybody's toes? What was that?
Yeah, mostly stepping on people's toes and scared of prematurely ruining my reputation before I had even hatched from the egg, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's necessarily like a valid thing to be scared of, because I think if you are just honest and voice where you're coming from, people will respect you for being that honest as opposed to just being a doormat, for like use of a very expletive, like, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And not to say that I was a doormat all the time, but I definitely think that you should stand up for the things that you believe in when you know that you have the possibility of changing them along your path. I think that's definitely some advice I would give myself.
Wow, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else that you would also tell yourself?
Theater's great. Theater is so great. Storytelling is so fantastic. Like, and yes, it's so transferable, but just thinking about theater as a whole, like you are presenting an alternate world live in front of a room full of people. And I rave about this all the time. This is my favorite thing about theater. It could all go horribly wrong. And how funny is that? Like how truly comical is that? And as long as nobody gets hurt, you know, like as long as nothing catastrophic happens, that's something that I try, because I get nervous on opening night as a stage manager. I get nervous, like, which you'd think is not a thing, but it's like it's the first time. It's not the first time, but it's like it's the opening night. There's a lot of people there. It's a really big important night. And I find that thinking about that kind of helps me a little bit. Like, so what if something goes wrong? You'll solve it. It's funny. It's fun. As long as nobody gets hurt, it's all good. And that is the true joy for me of my job, is solving those problems. And that's,
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Question for around the table right now. And if you're in the comments, you can absolutely throw this into, we'll be happy to read it. So just off the top of your head, guys, a theatrical experience that you have either been a part of or something that you experienced, whether it was an audience member or something like that, that you just went, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm seeing here in this experience. I'm going to give you two of them as examples for myself. I went to what was it? Oh, it's been such a long time since I was in the college theater competition circuit that they would have. They give out like the Irene Dunn Awards or whatever it was. I forget what it was, but I remember I was up at Cal State Fresno, and all these other universities were competing against each other. And this show, I think they were out of Fresno, Cal State Fresno, but they put on this show that was called Championship Theater. And this was right around the time when like American Gladiators and all that stuff was like really coming onto television. This show, and I've never really seen it again, but this thing was so well done, like college theater at its peak. And the concept behind it was it was all a scripted play, right? But it was about two theater teams that were competing against each other performing Hamlet. It was so good. It had like all these theater tropes, and it was such an exciting show. And to be like in the middle of it, and like people were like running up and down the aisle, and they'd have like penalties for people that were eating popcorn in the thing, and oh, there's a flash photography, no pictures in the audience. And it was just such a captivating show. And I wish that I could see a production of it. It was called Championship Theater years ago. It was that is one of them that absolutely blew me away, that said, I'm so glad that I got to experience this, and I'll never experience that again. And then the other experience I had was again, probably close to about 30 years ago. I was in an audience at UCLA, and there was a dance company. I cannot for the life of me remember the dance company, but they were doing this incredible work. And I remember they had this one guy that was doing these, he was doing these leaps around the stage, and he was timing it out to this music. And but they also had a strobe light. And as it continued to go, he continued to match himself with the strobe light as the strobe light sped up, that he got it to a point that it literally looked like he was walking on air 3 feet above the ground. He did this rotation. And then when the lights came on, it looked like he had just dropped out of the air like that. It was such a magical experience where I just went, oh my gosh, what is this? I'm so glad that I'm here to experience this. Paul, how about you? Anything that comes to mind when you think about like a theatrical experience you were either a part of or saw, or something that just made you go, I'm so glad I'm here to see this live?
Nothing as like unique as yours, but I just remember seeing, just I had seen Les Mis in New York when I was in high school. We were in the very back row of the theater, and I knew like the music was beautiful and it was a cool show and stuff. But then like, I don't know if it was like 10 years or so ago, it was at the Pantages, and we got to sit like 10 rows back, and just having that experience, that musical, and just the amazing cast and everybody involved, it just brought me to tears. And then I had the same experience at the Pantages with Wicked. Like I'd never seen Wicked. I knew Defying Gravity. I knew that song.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like seeing the show in the Pantages and being in it with everybody else just moved me to just I was like sobbing at the end of it.
Yeah.
But nothing as unique as yours.
That's all right, man. I just love it that we get to shout out the power of live theater. Elizabeth, how about for you?
Just in response to what you described, my first thing is I can't imagine teching that sequence and getting him like the amount of times they had to do that to get it right.
I mean,
And
like 3 feet around, it looked like he was walking in a circle, and then to get that final light to where it looked like he landed out of the air. Amazing.
Crazy.
And this was like, guys, this was like back in like 92 or 93 that I saw them doing this, Yeah. So they were calling that, right? They had rehearsed the hell out of that. So
that's true. I don't know if they had the tech to do that in auto follows.
No way. No way they had that. So
I had a really profound experience with Dear Evan Hansen the first time I saw it, but I still to this day rave about seeing Indecent at the Seattle Repertory Theater. Shout out to the Seattle Rep. That production was insane. It was just so moving and so touching. I don't know if either of you are familiar.
What is the show? I am not familiar with this. Indecent.
So it's actually written at Yale. It was a capstone project of a Yale student. And I am going to butcher the synopsis of the show.
Go for it. Can't.
But it
watch
follows...
this is like, she'll tell it. It'll be totally wrong. Everybody will go on afterwards to see the summary and go, that's not what this show is.
Yeah, might be wrong.
Where does a banana and a cat have to do with this?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure what it is it follows a couple or multiple couples. It's hard to follow because of the sequence of the show.
Okay.
It's not very linear.
Okay.
And it's about LGBTQ relationships in the early 20s in Jewish culture, immigrant culture, and another culture that is escaping me right now. But the amazing part of the show is that they all talk, when they are talking in their native tongue, they talk in like how you and I are talking, no accent. But as soon as they are talking in English, they switch to having an accent all of a sudden, how you would hear them if they were speaking English as a second.
So if I'm speaking Yiddish, I'm speaking to you like this in English, but like the audience knows that we're speaking in Yiddish.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so anyway, yeah. So then when we when we're like going back to like speaking English to other people, we've got it with a heavy accent, right? All of that.
Yeah, it was insane. Like the acting company blew me away. Like it was so cool. And they were doing it with multiple different, like, because all of the different characters had different backgrounds from what I recalled. I think some Italian. Oh, I don't want to guess because I'm gonna mess it up and people are gonna be mad in the comments.
A banana
Sorry.
and a cat. How did
Yeah.
she get that?
Yeah. Anyway, the show was just, it was so beautifully done. I rave about this, the production elements, like just insane, like the way the set was integrated and the way the company like flowed through the sets and the settings and used, because it's a bunch of boxes because it's immigrant America.
Is
And
it
it's
drama? Is that what it is? Play?
I guess so.
It's
Yeah.
not
Like
a
it's
musical
not,
though.
no, it's not a musical.
Yeah,
There
okay,
are
gotcha.
songs in it, like songs in other languages in it.
Sure.
And
it's mainly a play.
It's mainly a play. Yeah.
gotcha.
And just the set was so diverse and they'd pull things out of it because it just looks like piles of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it any better than that. And they just would pull stuff out of it and the way they flowed in and out and the lighting and the sound and like all of the elements together just created this like beautiful moving piece of theater. And at the end, all these like spoiler alert, I'm so sorry. The sand like dropped from the sand from the grid because it's a fly house and I had never seen anything like it. It was so cool. And then spoiler alert, it rained and it was insane. It was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my whole life. And I was just like, crazy. Dang it. Like if I could be a fly on the wall on the tech of this, like the production of this, like it was just so cool. Yeah. Like all across the board, production elements, the acting company, the stage manager, kudos. Like it was just so well executed. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was just so good.
Man, that's what you want, man. You want something that's just like,
especially as someone in theater, in production, like for me to sit there and go is like, that's a big thing. So yeah, because I see a lot of shows. So cool.
No, I know, right? It's that thing you want. It's, it's so hard. I actually got, I'm not going to say it. Let's just say like, I was going to say something very specific.
Okay.
It's one thing when you go to a show, and especially as you're going out live, and especially nowadays where it's just like, you want to go and just like go, give me something that really like wows me. And it's hard to not have that experience, right? Like you want, like, especially when it's like live theater, it's just like, please just knock me out. Cause it's so, man, live theater is such a communal experience. It's something else to see stuff that's been recorded, seeing recordings of Hamilton or Les Mis or any of that stuff. And you go, wow, this is amazing. But something else completely different to be in person and go, I can feel this, So, pretty neat.
It was cool. I wish I could go again. I wish it was still on. It was before the pandemic. It was, so good. It was so good.
Who knows, man? Keep finding those treasures. Who knows what will come to us over the next couple of years. We just gotta keep doing it. Just gotta keep doing it and putting it out there. So, Elizabeth, I will tell you what, it's been an absolute joy having you on the show, man.
Thank you.
Look at this. I got one here from Diana, who just joined us right now. Here's a play I'll never forget. In college, my grandmother and I saw a play at Fulton College called Take Me Out. We didn't expect to see a cast of naked guys. We were both speechless, and I'll let her finish that. Yeah, I'm sure that'll
that happened to me too. I can relate to that. I saw a show once and the end of the show was just everyone on stage getting naked. And I was like, ooh, I did not expect that.
I tell you what, look at this. Who knew the conversation was go this way? Yes. Diana still talks about it to this day. I remember way back in, again, dating myself, but back in the early 90s, there were a group of artists. They were called the NEA4, National Endowment of the Arts 4. Okay. John Fleck, Tim Miller, and there were two other ladies. So basically Congress had granted major arts things, but these guys, they were listen, from where I am now, they were pushing the boundaries of what they were doing, right? They were pushing the boundaries, but they got their grants yanked, right? Like Congress at the time, conservative Congress just said, nope, we're not going to be paying for this, right? So I remember I went down to, it was LATC. I don't even know if LATC still exists now in downtown LA, but at the time LATC was downtown, and so the NEA4 was there, and I saw a performance with John Fleck and Tim Miller, and there was another one that was by this other director, Abel, whatever, man. But these shows I saw, oh my gosh. Heathens. I mean, there's so much. I mean, there was so much nudity. It was crazy. John Fleck at one point came out and was like, he was doing a monologue and took off his pants and like humped a guy in the audience. It was just like, oh,
Whoa.
too much, man. I was like kind of going, I was like 5 or 6 rows back going like, oh, please don't come up here. So
There's a lot of theaters like that in West Hollywood, but they don't.
Listen, man, I believe it. It's something else when you see somebody nude on stage. So
Yeah, sure is.
Anyway, Elizabeth, with that said, a pleasure to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
we talk about nudity, and then we thank our guests for being on. Elizabeth, thanks so much, man, for being on the show. A pleasure working with you outside of here, but I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to have you on. So onward and upward, my friend. You know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for being on.
Of course.
Hey, Paul, how can people help the show?
By sending me really nice notes and making me feel good about myself.
You heard it right here, ladies and gentlemen. So get out those and send it to this address.
Also, by reviewing this show, however you consume podcasts on whatever platform you are enjoying the show on, whether it's YouTube or Buzzsprout or
Spotify
Apple Podcasts,
yeah,
or Spotify or Stitcher.
Yeah.
Just leave us a quick, real nice review. It'll help people who like things like this find things like this and this thing.
I love it. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, or maybe share this with a friend that was watching and said, hey, check this out. Wait till you see what happens in the last 5 minutes of their show, what they start talking about. It'll be interesting. It definitely helps. If you want to see past shows as well, you can always go to yourcreativejourneypodcast.com and check out our archive. Also, big shout out, make sure that you head over to vaudacitynetwork.com where there's fantastic stuff. As a matter of fact, Paul and the gang did a version of Evan Hansen just a few weeks ago. As a matter of fact, they do a lot of they've got some incredibly talented people. How was the performance for you that night?
Oh, it was awesome. It's my favorite one yet. We've done like 10 musicals now since the COVID hit, and that was by far our highlight as far as virtual YouTube musicals go. It was a lot of fun. And this week we're full of Christmas content. Tomorrow night we're doing my Christmas short film.
Oh gosh, yeah, wonderful.
Tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. We've got Amanda on Demand at 8 tomorrow. Thursday night's Hunter, and then the big Polly's Online Variety Show holiday special Thursday night at 7.
Perfect. Head over to vaudacitynetwork.com. That'll link you directly to the YouTube channels as well. Thank you so much to all of our listeners that were out here tonight. We truly appreciate it. Angelica, Diana, Christina, Dari, Meryl, Enargic. Yeah, these people, I think the bots that decided to join us, right? I mean, they got to be bots, right? Yep. How do you think the bots show up and like start making comments? What do you think? Did you want to talk to the bots at all or no, Paul?
No, I think it's generally anytime they hear about nudity on stage, they're like, that's the audience we're looking for, and they hop in.
Crazy. Well, thanks, bots, for being here on YouTube. That's it. Anyway, we want to say thanks to all of you guys for being out here. We truly appreciate it. You guys are a huge blessing. We'll see you back here in a couple of weeks. We got a couple more guests coming your way. Some announcements coming up soon. We'll talk to you about that as well. Have a great evening, and we will talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, gang.
Thank you, Steve Erdeman.
Thanks, Steve Erdeman. We appreciate you so much. And there, I'm going to also stop this over here.